I was working at a fast food restaurant, and a few kids got sick. And then a few days later, I got sick, and the first symptoms were throwing up constantly. So then we went to the doctors. They were thinking it was norovirus, but then they tested me just to be precautionary. And then once I found out I was positive for COVID, I was kind of shocked. I was extremely healthy. Anytime I'd get sick, it'd last a day. It was, I don't know, it was shocking.
And then that Sunday we found out it was COVID. So we pretty much all figured we had it. Her friend that had it from us, she tested positive. So we were all quarantined for 2 weeks. I was home by myself with 4 kids.
I was so lethargic. I couldn't stand for 2 minutes. I couldn't breathe. I was catching my breath the whole time, coughing nonstop. It felt awful. I wouldn't know how to describe the feeling. I couldn't even talk because I was just so low on energy. I had hypoxia, so I was pretty much dying for 2 weeks.
And I just saw her laying there, motionless on the bed. I said, Kasey, what are you doing? How are you? What's going on? And she said, I can't move. I can't move from this position, or I cannot breathe.
But figured it would go away soon, so I kind of just laid in bed, waited for it to go away, and 2 weeks came by, having problems breathing, catching my breath. Couldn't even stand for 10 minutes, not even 2 minutes.
And the doctor said, no, take her right to the hospital. So we drove up there, and I couldn't go in with her because even though I was vaccinated, I had to take care of all the kids that were not vaccinated. So they were in quarantine. So she had to go in by herself. And the next thing I know, the doctor's calling me saying, this is the worst case of COVID I've ever seen in a kid. This is something you'd see in a 70-year-old man. So she needs to go to the hospital, the pediatric ICU, which we don't have on island. So she needs to get life flighted out of here.
I still didn't think I had it severely and was going to die.
I had no idea. I thought she was going to go in and get a nebulizer treatment, some antibiotics, and come home. So I didn't even say, hey, bye. I said, I'll see you in a minute. And now they're like, she's gone and you can't go with her. And her dad wasn't here. He was on deployment. So she had to do it all by herself. She had to go in the helicopter by herself. She had to go to a hospital that she wasn't familiar with, all by herself, not knowing what was going on. And it was scary. And I was home and I couldn't keep it together. I've got the other 3 kids that I was trying to keep them going, and they're all getting the symptoms. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to have 4 kids that are sick with COVID in the hospital? And I'm here with myself.
I was actually overseas whenever I learned Kasey had gotten a positive COVID test. And it's not the greatest news, but I wasn't too concerned. A lot of people are getting COVID positive and either asymptomatic or just fighting it off like a cold.
The next day, my lung had collapsed, and they sedated me for 2 days straight, I guess. And I remember waking up and seeing my dad, and it was surprising because he was on deployment.
The day I actually got back to the States on the East Coast was the day she went to the ER and she got life flighted to Seattle Children's. And that's when things just went from not very much concern to extreme concern.
Because of the COVID pneumonia, my lungs just filled up with mucus and liquid very fast. And I wasn't getting enough oxygen, so I was slowly dying. Just a lot of medicines. I had a chest tube, ventilator, ECMO machine, IVs going in everywhere, catheter. They were flipping me to get the gunk out of my lungs, because that's why I wasn't getting oxygen. My lungs were filled with liquid because of the pneumonia. But they had to stop doing that when I was put on ECMO. I was on blood thinners, so I had chances of getting brain bleeds and it not stop bleeding. Chances of having an infection to my heart. It's just a huge risk to be on ECMO.
And then things happened very fast and went downhill very fast.
I had this one moment where I thought I was seeing death. After I was off everything and I kind of found out what happened to me. Because, I was unconscious the whole time. I didn't really understand, fully. I was scared of going back. Even though the doctor's like, you're fine, you pulled through, you made it. I was just still scared of, going back to being on a ventilator or dying the next time. But I'm very far from that now. I was not vaccinated. Well, I figured I was healthy and I wouldn't catch it, or if I were to catch it, it would be cold. The cold-like symptoms people get sometimes.
So I was one of those folks, those parents that procrastinated. So the message is, if you're still procrastinating, please gather whatever data you need from reliable sources and make the decision. Stop procrastinating.
I never crossed my mind that I could be in this situation. I thought it was just rare, very rare. But I know there's a lot of kids that are probably against it, and hopefully if they hear about me, they'll think, oh, maybe I should get vaccinated.
I would just like to say, it's fine if you don't want to, it's fine to make your own choices, but please just get accurate data. It's out there. All you got to do is do a little searching. The statistics on the virus are out there. The statistics on the vaccinations are out there. Look at the numbers, mull them over, and then consider our case whenever you're considering survival. So the survival rates, Kasey survived. She's a survivor, but what did that mean? That meant a month in the hospital and on life support. So just factor that in. That's what survival looks like. And not everybody's going to get the most severe case, but the probability is there. So
I know it's a hard decision. You want to make the best decision for your family. We thought we were making the best decision with waiting a little while, with not knowing how things were going to affect Kasey now or in the future. But there's nothing that the vaccine could have done to her that would have been worse than what we went through. There's nothing. To see your child laying in her own bed dying. If there's anything you can do to possibly prevent that, you should think about that as an option because it's terrifying. So.
Yeah, as far as the hospital availability, like in Kasey's case, if they didn't have a bed, she would have died. If they did not have another ventilator, she would have died. And if they did not have an ECMO machine, she would have died. If they didn't have 4 units of her blood type, she would have died. And then you always hear on the news, hospital beds. A bed is just a bed. She had to have 2 nurses while she was on ECMO 24/7. One to be her normal nurse and one to monitor the machine and make any adjustments. So in addition to beds, you need staff, you need all the equipment, and like everything else, every other resource, there's never an infinite amount. And unfortunately, hopefully it doesn't come to where someone like her isn't, not going to have an ECMO machine or whatever other supplies that were needed to keep her alive at that time. I hope it doesn't come to that.